Joe, what do kids with cancer and jokes about kids with cancer have in common?
What?
They never get old. I'm Anthony Jeselnik.
You wish. I'd be kissing you right now if you were. Wait. Sorry. Can we start over?
Nope.
Tell the cancer joke again.
Okay. Joe, welcome to Carnival Personnel. I'm Jacques.
I'm Joe.
And we got a lot of great stuff going on.
God, I hope you guys have nothing to do for the next 2 hours because, hey, man, have we got a show for you.
So as we're recording this, Florence and the Machine are wreaking havoc in the Carolinas. But it wasn't nearly as bad as people thought it might.
It's been downgraded to a tropical storm, but it's lumbering and sitting there, and it's just going to pour inches and inches of rain into that Wilmington, North Carolina area specifically.
Yeah, it's moving 3 miles an hour, which...
Yeah, right.
With my broken ankle, I was walking faster than that.
Right, it's basically on a walker. Like the
tennis balls on the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not, but, it's already claimed lives, and, it's awful. It's just, our hearts and... No. Our thoughts and prayers? No. You're Anthony Jeselnik? No.
No, not even. Bob, did you see the dick pic that the weather service had sent out? Did you?
There's always a dick pic with it. You know what? I just think that they're just bored meteorologists at this point. There's ways...
But you know what I'm talking about?
Okay. There's ways you can portray the tracking of a hurricane without making it look like a penis. You think maybe there's some sort of space-age technology that can avoid the phallic imagery.
That's right up there with the VHS release of Little Mermaid.
I don't know that. Oh, wait. Is there a penis on the cover?
One of the castles, and it's
right.
It's not an accident. It's not an accident.
Right. I think it was shooting something at the end there.
So at the little fireworks. Well, white.
Sure.
What?
Right.
So as I told Joe the other night, because I'm
in bed,
bad person.
Pillow talk.
We bought our house in last November, and it's gone up. It's gone up. It's not a great amount, but it's like, wow, that's a pretty nice amount that it's gone up. So the property values in Lowell have gone up in the last year, but Lawrence, blowing up, man. Lawrence is blowing up, man.
Oh, I see where the confusion lies. You see, you're confusing the term blowing up with the price of the house market. But really what happened was that houses literally blew up in Andover and the Lawrence area.
Yes, that's exactly what. And I'm not a good person. We actually have had friends who have been evacuated. One person died. One 18-year-old kid who was in his car and a chimney just blew off the house and crushed the car. You heard that?
Yes.
I usually have the news on or sports on, and they were talking about it on the sports station, but I wasn't listening. It was the rare time I was listening to music the other day, and I started getting text messages from friends in Los Angeles asking if we were okay, because people knew. We lived in the area, it's like, I don't know if they remember, like my parents live in Lawrence and stuff like that. But I got these messages from a lot of the F&H guys asking if we're okay, if our parents are okay, if our house is okay. I'm like, maybe I'll turn the news on and see why people are asking.
When you did, you saw that houses were blowing up because apparently there was some sort of gas pressure situation that caused... at least 20 houses or 70 houses were on fire.
Three houses blew up like they got a delivery from Acme that was supposed to go to the Coyote and just boom, like complete. You see the pictures of it. It's like, was there ever a house there type thing? Mm-hmm. But yeah, 80 structures ended up catching fire.
And it turns out that it's due to possibly, hasn't been confirmed yet, possibly human error because a gas main had been overcharged, overpressurized. So it just flooded houses with gas So much so that any sort of spark or anything like that could cause an explosion, and did, and houses were burnt down and people were evacuated, and affected Andover, Mass, North Andover, and South Florence.
And that company, Columbia Gas, was going to be redoing their pipes like next week, and I don't know if this was in preparation of it.
Probably.
And the governor has stepped in and basically, we don't like your cleanup plan, and have ordered in other companies to help them, because the company isn't big enough to fix their own problem. We will not segue into privatizing all of these things and rolling back oversight and stuff like this. But they did. They ended up having to cut the power to those 3 towns out of that fear of like somebody could turn on a light switch and your neighbor's house would go up. Yeah.
And I didn't realize this, but I learned that there's like a window of like PSI for gas or pressure in a gas.
And footballs.
Right, exactly. Well, we'll get to that, or we've gotten to that. But this is actually real. So apparently
Well played.
There's, below a certain level of gas will not ignite an explosion. And above a certain level of gas will not ignite an explosion, because there's just too much gas. Like there's just no oxygen to actually ignite the gas.
You need the baby bear bed level of gas.
No, you need them. Right.
Just right.
That's right, baby bear. You need oxygen and gas and a spark. But I would say that. But what has happened now is that they're literally going door to door, turning off the gas to every house, and making sure that there's not enough gas in that house to, when they turn the power back on, will start a fire or an explosion. And that's a Herculean task.
Yeah, we have a friend who lived on one of the blocks, has a condo that's 6, 7, buildings down from one that exploded. It took her 2 days to get back in, just to get her cats out of there that are now staying at our place in our laundry room, because she doesn't know when she's getting back in her house. It's kind of open-ended. So,
and we're recording this on Saturday, and the explosion happened. Was it Thursday night?
Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday afternoon. Yeah.
Thursday afternoon. Yeah.
And kind of maybe good Thursday afternoon, if that's like early morning. There could have been more people in their home. Those homes that blew up.
It was like 4:30 in the afternoon or something when it happened. Gee. But and I mean, it's awful that somebody died and but it's a miracle that not
it's only
more.
Been one.
Yeah,
right.
And it was a freak accident. It was just the way you described it. But poor kid. That's kind of how I want to go, though.
18 years old in
yes.
the car? Okay.
Oh, man.
Bunch of bricks falling down on you?
Yep, like a ton of bricks. What weighs more than a ton of feathers or a ton of bricks?
Dude, that's easy.
Bricks.
It's duh.
Yeah. All right, okay, just want to make sure.
The other thing that's blown up this past week was RetroWorld Expo in Connecticut. Family outing?
We went out again to our yearly outing. Since its inception, RetroWorld Expo is a Connecticut area con where YouTube personalities that are involved with retro gaming show up, and they just they sell their wares and they have panels and stuff, but they also have tons of vendors there that sell. It's like a big flea market, but only for video games and collectibles, artwork, like really cool artwork too.
Did you buy me something that I can re-gift back to you? Because I don't want anything.
I think I almost did. I was actually looking for something for your boys, but then I was like, wait a minute, I only got this amount of money and I want to spend it on myself, so it's not going to work out.
No, but yes, because they are deprived of things. Oh, by the way, I'm surprised you didn't wish me happy Batman Day.
I don't wish you happy birthday.
Yeah,
I wish you were gone.
But this is more important than my birthday.
Yeah, well, happy Batman Day. This is today, literally is Batman Day. Today.
Yep.
The 15th of September. Is it 9/15 or is it like the third Saturday in September? Or how does it work? Like what makes it Batman Day?
Yes.
Because Twitter says so.
So but you guys had a good time? The boys have a good time?
Yeah, we picked up a couple of games and we picked up some. My younger son is into like the plushies, hopefully it's not something he'll carry on into adulthood. So hopefully that'll weed itself out.
Now, no offense, Peter.
Right. but it's okay. I actually later on I do want to talk about a game that we picked up. So we went to RetroWorld Expo. We drove 2 hours to Hartford, Connecticut to play arcades and buy stuff. We paid $90 for the three of us to drive 2 hours to a place to buy video games and to play free arcades, and then to buy food for ourselves and to drive back, only to go to a GameStop afterwards and buy even more stuff. One of which I will mention later in our video game review.
I'm looking forward to that. But a good time.
Yes, but no temporary layoffs. No easy credit ripoffs or scratching and surviving. Hanging and jiving.
Big night tonight. Date night.
I know. I got my tuxedo T-shirt on. I got my assless chaps. I am ready to go. We're talking about going to see the not late, great Emo Phillips.
By date, Joe and I.
Yes, right. I don't think they assumed anything else.
No. Ironically, it was my management who saw, the tickets on Groupon. She goes, "You want to see Emo Phillips?" And I don't like to do anything ever, but they were $8 and walking distance from Joe's house. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Now, I don't think they're going. Would you put emo? Is emo the stand-up version of the band Rush?
Yes. Yeah, I know where you're going with this. Right. Yes. His core audience is 50-year-old men.
Right.
White men.
Right. So mega.
Right. I mean, there are 2 men's rooms at the theater tonight.
So we're gonna we're full report back. Yeah, Emo Phillips is we talked about it a great deal during the sideshow for the or when we talked about your Al show, because you've seen him already once this year.
Yeah. Emo opened for Al, and I did my emo impersonation, which got rave review, and and it. He's funny. I expect to see the exact same show, only drawn out over maybe an hour and a half.
Have you followed this week's rumor that Henry Cavill is leaving Superman?
I have, and that they wanted to maybe put in Michael B. Jordan.
We'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
But have you? So it was on Tuesday. It was all over the Twitter that he's leaving. And on Wednesday...
That was like the Superman's 9/11.
It really was. It really was.
See, if you check
well
your
done.
calendars.
Yes. We'll just say it was Wednesday to move on. Because, hey, nobody ever wants to relive you having that late fee for that mom and pop video store because you couldn't return the video on 9/11/2001. We'll all remember where we were that day, Joe.
Never forget, be kind, rewind.
So the next day, Henry Cavill posts this bizarre...
Or bizarro.
On Instagram. It's just him standing there. He's wearing a Krypton lifting team T-shirt. And he's just standing there. And then all of a sudden you hear like the scratch of an old record. And it was dogs barking to woof, 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 woof. And slowly he, from below the screen, holds up a Superman doll of himself to about neck level and then slowly lowers it. That's the whole video. Like, it is the most bizarre. Like, is he saying he's not leaving? Is he saying he's leaving? But that's how he responded the next day after the world, was going mental, that he is not. And the rumors is he's not going to be in Shazam. And basically, he's like, hey, I signed on to be part of the DC extended universe. I think he wanted to kind of be the Iron Man, where, Iron Man was in Captain America movies. Iron Man was in the Spider-Man movie. Iron Man was in the Iron Man movie. Spider-Man was in the Avengers. He was also in,
was he in Thor? No, he wasn't in any No. Was he in Thor 2?
Don't think he was in any. I don't think he was in any Thors. But that's what Henry Cavill wanted. So I don't know if he's leaving because he's not being used enough. But now get to who they want to replace him with.
Michael B. Jordan.
Now, there's no way a black guy could play Superman because we know everybody on Krypton was white on this fictitious planet that never existed.
He might as well play Santa Claus. Oh,
seriously, I love the fact that like people, it's like because so many people weren't into the comics when Nick Fury, when Samuel L. Jackson plays Nick Fury. White in the comics, and I don't remember because it wasn't a big thing.
He wasn't iconic,
and now I can't even imagine like anybody else playing Nick Fury, but Samuel L. Jackson, and that's the whole funny thing. It's like, because Superman was white at one point, you realize Superman's not real. Krypton's not, and this is coming from me.
They're not even human,
right? Right.
It's not a black guy. It's a guy.
A guy.
Not even a guy, like an alien. Like it might as well be Alf. Well, let's have Alf be Superman.
And the funny thing is, like Michael B. Jordan's resume, it's all superhero stuff. Not all.
He was in Creed.
He was in Creed, but he's been the voice of Cyborg and a lot of DCU stuff over the last few years. He was Johnny Storm, but there was some controversy that he was Johnny Storm in Fantastic Four. My problem is the Fantastic Four movie sucked. This
second Fantastic Four movie to suck.
Right. They tried so hard.
Right, and it's not like, it's not like that movie sucked and the first one didn't suck. They both had their own way of sucking.
It's both Hulks. Like the second one with Ed Norton was better, but still, I mean, they've not made a good Hulk movie. But now, Hulk as one of 6 Avengers, perfect.
Yeah.
But when I saw like people losing their shit that Henry Cavill's leaving, then he responds, and then the rumors about Michael B. Jordan coming out. It's it's like people losing their shit over. It's like, dude, it's none of this is okay.
I mean, what should people be losing their shit over?
What should people be losing their shit over? Are we ready to get into all that stuff?
Or do we want to talk about? Do we want to stick with the entertainment stuff?
Yeah. What else we got? Entertainment.
Well,
There's enough bad to get to.
Well, let's jump down to the Norm MacDonald thing.
There you go. So Norm MacDonald.
Yeah.
He's
he said some things, and he wishes he hadn't. What do you call it? Said them.
Does he wish he didn't say them, or
yes.
Does he wish he didn't get?
No, I think what he didn't. I actually heard him after the whole incident of him. Let's back it up. Let's brief the audience.
Beep, beep.
You don't have a little button on that sound effect machine to do the backup sound?
No, it was just me walking backwards.
Right. like every comment. You should be walking all your comments backwards. So anyway, I was saying that Norm MacDonald was saying on Twitter, I know what happened. He gave, Norm MacDonald has a show coming up called Norm MacDonald Has a Show on Netflix. It's his talk show that was on YouTube that has now been translated to Netflix. Apparently Ted Sarandos, who's the president of Netflix, is a huge Norm MacDonald fan and decided that, yes, that show is perfect for Netflix and he can interview like top tier celebrities and his friends and all that stuff. So, he's got really good people lined up like David Letterman and Jane Fonda, to name a couple. But so when they were doing the press or, I guess the press tour or whatever you want to call it for the show, part of that was doing some print interviews. And one of them was with the Hollywood Reporter. And in the Hollywood Reporter, the interviewer asked him, because he's friends with he got his start basically in television writing with Roseanne on the Roseanne show, and he was friends with Louis C.K. What his take was on them, losing their careers over or being penalized, or what did he think of the situation for both of them? And he said, well, I said that when Roseanne was thrown off her show because of a tweet, she was like legitimately like freaking out, and she called Norm, and Norm's like, what, you should talk to Louis because Louis kind of gone through the same thing where he had his career taken away from him, whatever. I don't know exactly how he phrased it, but kind of like that. And the interviewer said, well, what about the victims? And I think there was some sort of mistranslation or misunderstanding or something like that. But the Norm decided to say in response, "Well, the victims, they hadn't gone through something like that." So I think maybe Norm was thinking that the interview was asking him, "Well, why wouldn't Roseanne reach out to the victims or something, or why wouldn't Roseanne want to talk to the victims?" But not that's not, I guess, what the interviewer meant. The interviewer was like, "Well, what about the victims, literally of the, of Louis C.K. specifically?" I mean, there was really only one victim in the Roseanne thing, if you want to call it that. It was the
American people.
Yes.
Okay.
But it was the woman that I'm blanking on her name, but the woman that she thought was white.
I thought the bitch was white.
Yes. But long story short, Norm MacDonald said, well, the victims hadn't gone through something like that where they lost their career in a blink of an eye, or something to that effect. And he was booked to go on The Tonight Show when that interview had been released. And The Tonight Show said, well, he was actually in
the green room.
In the green room. And he's friends with Jimmy Fallon. And Jimmy's was psyched to do, they had this bit planned. And Jimmy, after, as it was getting close to showtime, he pulls Norm aside in the green room. He says, hey, look, I don't know what we're going to do here because, what you said kind of upset a lot of people. Like, there are women and, senior producers on my show who are crying. And he's like, crying over what I said? Like, really? Like, not like incensed, like, how could dare they cry? But like, I really that, what I said, which seems so banal, had that profound of an effect on a senior producer of a television show. He's like, can I talk with them and or do something? But Jimmy Fallon was worried about how they were going to approach it because they had to talk about it. It was in the news that day, and of course, everything hits the news instantly. So when the tape at 5:00, they're going to have to talk about it. And Jimmy Fallon's audience, as you probably know, is very middle of the road, youngish, kind of like party, or it's a fun atmosphere. They're not it's not a political show. He plays games, he does goofy stuff, he does skits. He has on celebrity guests and musical appearances and all that. Typical talk show, but doesn't get into the dirt like maybe Colbert or Kimmel. But so at the last minute, I think they just decided sort of mutually that he should not go on the show that night. And then he went on Howard Stern's show the next day and explained the whole situation for 2 hours. Not the whole situation for 2 hours, but in the 2-hour interview, he explained what had happened and why he said what he said. And then during the Howard Stern show, he said, I can't believe that people would think that I was against the Me Too movement. You'd have to be like I was going to say a word, but you'd have to be like a Down syndrome to think that I was pro Me Too movement. Saying that got him into some hot water because then he had to go on The View the next day and explain why he said Down syndrome instead of the R word. So it's a whole little ball of shit that he got himself into. But the end result is that he still has his show on Netflix. It premiered on Friday. I didn't see it yet, but it's there for now.
Smoke them while you got them.
I don't think that there's any, it's something where I think a lot of people maybe either thought what he said was very insensitive or kind of like in a bubble or old manish. Yes, I kind of agree. But at the same time, he didn't do anything to anybody. Like, there is no victim. He was insensitive or maybe chose his words poorly. But I don't think that he actually said, yeah, those people are lying.
Bitches had it coming.
Yeah.
What were they wearing?
Or, it's okay if, Roseanne called that woman a monkey or an ape. That's fine. I've done that. Who among us, this is me as Norm MacDonald, who among us hasn't compared a possibly black person to a planet?
I thought the bitch was white.
All right, I'm sorry. I know that's on your license plate. So this is a very long-winded way to say that Norm MacDonald got himself into some mixed-up situations because he just says things. He says things. And that's actually the charm of Norm MacDonald. You probably don't like him. If you don't if you don't understand where he was coming from, I'm actually going to defend Norm MacDonald on this one. I'm usually like, the fucking social justice warrior, snowflake, libtard idiot. That I seriously like Louis C.K. He can, he can go jerk off himself, which he will. He was a funny guy, but what he did was, pretty fucked up. And, maybe he'll come back later on, years down the line. Hopefully, for his sake, he'll come back. I don't give a shit. But for Norm MacDonald to be kind of like people to clamor to railroad him off of a show that's not even premiered yet because he said something that wasn't like 100%
taken out of context, but it also wasn't portrayed as he really meant it.
Yeah, and right, and it's, again, when you think in print, things lose context, things lose nuance. And things can be printed out of context to skew a certain way, but I don't think that was done in this case. I just think that there was a nuance there that wasn't picked up in print, and certainly the intent wasn't like, well, fuck those guys. Louis is my friend, and what happened to him wasn't right. Gosh darn it! But the other thing he said was that he thought Chris Hardwick. He was happy to see that the Me Too movement has, quote, slowed down. And I think that's what got him in a really...
I think that's the other big thing. And he wasn't saying that, people shouldn't come forward or this or that, but I think he was also saying that, hey, there's another...
Well, his thing was that he said, well, first it was like 100 women can't be wrong. And, of course. Then it was like one woman can't be wrong. And we're like, wait, what?
What?
And that's kind of what happened in Chris Hardwick's case. Like the guy had a clean record.
Right. It's not the Harvey Weinstein thing. It's not the Bill Cosby thing.
And it wasn't even like a thing. It was like a poor relationship, apparently.
Right.
And it wasn't like,
and that's why he has the show back.
And he might have been a dick, but he didn't do anything illegal or untoward in a professional setting, whatever. So that's what Norm MacDonald, and I think he said on the Stern Show, I will never do print. I can't do print interviews again because you just lose all content. Like it just fucks you up.
Well, like I said, every time I text anybody, I feel like I have to follow it up by like, that wasn't sarcastic, because everybody assumes everything I say is sarcastic. And even when I'm like, when Joe's like, hey, the boys and I are going to come over to go swimming. Great. No, I actually mean great, Joe. Please come on over and go swimming. It wasn't, great. It doesn't read.
My condolences. Yeah, all those things.
All right, now moving on. I said this last week, and I get to say it again this week, okay? You ready, Joe? Say it with me. White power. Joe, come on. Ready? White power. Or yeah, Joe, come on. Make the sign with me. How do you make the sign again? It's the W with the P.
I think it's the middle finger extended.
So last week we had Brett Kavanaugh's chief. What's her role?
She was like a
legal clerk. She was like a legal clerk flashing the white power sign at the confirmation hearing, which is a perfect place to either show the world that you're a white supremacist, or you're just trolling the libs, and this is the best time to do it. But so just as I was driving over to Joe's, I get the call from management, and I couldn't really look it up when I was driving. And as soon as I walked into Joe's, I'm like, did you hear? And Joe's, about the guy in the Coast Guard flashing the white power symbol. I'm like, yes. So he had seen the clip. And again, it wasn't like the guy was holding up a big sign and marching around with the sheet over him, but it was clear enough where the guy knew what he was doing, and it was one of those things where he could later on call his friends and say, dude, did you see me flash that? And again, maybe he's not the biggest white supremacist piece of shit walking, and he's just trolling us libs, but
that would be Donald Trump.
But right, thank you. But here's a guy, and for anybody who hasn't seen the clip, and I'm quite sure everybody has by now, there's a spokesperson for the Coast Guard talking about their response to
Hurricane Florence.
Florence, right. And in the background, just one of the guys working at his desk typing away, who's clearly in the shot and knew he was clearly in the shot, decides, national TV, great time to get a message out to the Pepe Le Frogs.
And it looks like he's about to scratch his head, and he does the old head scratch move, but for a second, literally 60 milliseconds, he turns his head scratch, which is facing the camera, to a little OK symbol that is supposed to symbolize white power. That whole OK symbol, by the way, started off, I guess, as like a hoax on 4chan. Like, and I don't know what 4chan is, but I looked it up. Like a couple of years ago, where the 3 fingers from the OK sign is supposed to be the W, and the rest of the OK sign extended down to your arm looks like a P for power, so white power.
You said it.
Damn it. Damn it. Damn you, Jacques!
I say seek, you say.
Get the fuck out of here.
Heil.
No.
Heil, Joe.
9.
So while we're on that, we'll go right to the next topic. While being black. So let's see. You can't barbecue, right? That's out.
No.
You can't. Little girls can't sell water. You definitely cannot
Swim.
Yes, swimming's out, right?
Sorry.
The duality of that is hysterical. But, the people getting thrown out of their own pools, like who live in apartment complexes because they're black, can't get pulled over by a cop. Sons of bitches can't be kneeling during the national anthem.
You can get pulled over.
You can be pulled over.
You can't drive. That's the whole... You're all mixed up.
I'm all mixed up. Hey, but apparently you also cannot be black in your own apartment any longer.
Yes. You can't be black in your apartment. You can't be black in your apartment anymore. We're talking about the racist Dallas... No, we don't know if she's racist. But confused or trigger happy. Let's just say proactive.
Right, yeah. So break it down.
Break it down. A woman who's a police officer comes home.
6 years on the force.
She works for the Dallas Police Department. She lives in a complex in which you have to drive your car to the floor where your apartment is located. So, like, you go right out to the garage on the 3rd level if you're on the 3rd floor. Well, apparently she drove to the 4th floor level by accident, and it was dark or whatever. She walks into the 4th level thinking it's the 3rd level, walks into what she thinks is her apartment. The door is ajar, which... I don't know how many apartment buildings you walked into and how many ajar doors you've stumbled into. But okay, she obviously had to get into the apartment somehow. So let's just say it was hot. They left the door open. I don't know how it works in that apartment building. It's Dallas. It's fucking, September, early September. It's probably 90 degrees down there. So she walks in. There's a man in the apartment, which she thinks is hers. She pulls out her gun, yells commands to the man to, get down and get the fuck out or whatever. He's not really paying attention. Or not obeying her commands. And by the way, we're all getting this from one person, the cop.
It's funny how many of these black people who've been shot by cops, we don't get their side of the story.
Well, they're shot by cops and then dies,
right? Those people. If it's Facebook Live, we'll see it. But go on.
So she fires upon him and kills him. A man in his apartment that lived there, wasn't doing anything wrong. And now she's, obviously under investigation. I don't know if she's leave without pay or leave with pay. I don't know what the fuck's going on. But that's not the end of the story, Jacques.
You know what? You're only telling the story from one side.
Yes.
From the side of the cop. Why don't you tell it from the other side? Fox News.
Okay. Well, Fox 4. I think it was like local Fox News. Now, let's just say not all local Fox affiliates have any sort of slant that equal Fox News cable channel. But it's Dallas, so let's just say that they do. I'm sure PBS down there also leans a little to the right. But what Fox 4 apparently reported, quote unquote, was that the district attorney decided to put out there that, in a search of the apartment after the incident, we found some marijuana.
So
the end.
Right.
Just throwing it out there. Here's the picture of the guy who was, fatally shot in his own apartment while doing nothing.
When Trayvon Martin got shot, now Geraldo Rivera did say he was wearing a hoodie. So again, let's take all sides.
He also was, accused of having weed on him.
No, he was accused of I guess he got suspended from school in the past for having weed on him. Which, of course, is why he got shot walking to his father's house that night.
Yes, of course.
I'm quite sure that came up when the trigger-happy piece of shit, who was told by dispatch, cops are on the way, stay in your car.
Right. This is the police telling the crazy piece of shit.
Right. Anyways, so this woman, so she, but that's the whole thing. It's like the district attorney. Why are you smearing the guy's crime? Was standing in his own apartment, and then the other thing was like, well, he wasn't complying. You know what? If a cop just walks into your apartment for no reason and starts shouting orders, now granted,
I will comply.
Granted, we're getting there. We're getting there. We are definitely getting, I don't want to think if the election doesn't go the right way in November, I really don't want to see how bad things get in the next couple of years. But truly, to disparage this guy, to start putting out there that he wasn't obeying commands, and then I was listening to a couple of programs breaking down the difference between the apartments. It's like, the apartment buildings and the units all look the same, but like he didn't have it. He had a doormat. She doesn't. She has lots of plants, and I guess he has a bachelor pad, like pile of laundry on the, on his couch, old bowl of cereal on the. I mean, their apartments look nothing the same. And now, granted, there's been situations. I swear, oh God, it was maybe 3 years ago. We were in LA, and an older couple walked into our hotel room by mistake, and they gave him the wrong key card. So their key worked on our door, but this old couple walked in, saw me and the boys sitting there, eating, and they're like, "Oh my God, we're so sorry. I think we're in the wrong room." And then it, blah blah blah. Yeah, never once did I fear for my life or instantly, grab for a firearm.
And by the way, getting back to, we're hearing one side of the story. She told investigators that she commanded that he do something. I don't know if she yelled commands to him before she opened fire. Did she?
Right.
Is it like, are we just literally taking her by her word and that's it? Because are there witnesses? Did witnesses hear an altercation? Can they confirm that a female voice was yelling commands at somebody before they opened? Like, is this like corroborated? Or is it just like, oh no, she's a cop, we gotta trust her?
It's the same thing. The other, while being black. No, actually, was it black or Latino? I think that case it was while being brown. The guy who was buying like a pack of gum, and the off-duty cop behind him, this is a few months ago, saw him put the gum in his pocket while the guy's handing him change, and he pulls out his gun, and it was this whole thing and stuff.
Well, you know what happened? The officer yelled, "Gum, gum!"
Oh, is that what it was?
And
okay,
then,
right. So justified.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's the fact that you're now guilty of standing in your own apartment, and if the district attorney is, disparaging this person by putting that out there, I truly hope that there's a huge ass lawsuit. Not that it does any good, but that's anyways. Mm-hmm. Let's move on.
I love how like most of our rants just nothing. Anyways,
yeah. What are we gonna do?
I know we're just two white guys.
A couple white guys yelling at each other in a basement that Biff may or may not be listening to.
We know Richard's listening.
Thank you,
Richard.
Okay, so let's get on to. I'm gonna say a little good news. A couple more witches. Joe, a couple more witches. We're getting to Halloween. Couple more witches.
I love my poltergeist, but where are my witches? I don't know.
So Manafort, Paul Manafort, probably the
sexiest man alive.
At the end of the day, he will probably be the third biggest witch to fall in this witch hunt. So a couple weeks ago, he was charged. He had 18 counts in Virginia. Was found guilty on 8. A hung jury on 10. The government is still holding. They have like another week to say if they're going to file about those 10. Jury selection was supposed to happen this week in New York or starting on Monday, and it came out yesterday that he will be fully cooperating. That he cut a deal with the investigation.
Robert Mueller.
And he and what people didn't know, just because you're going to plead guilty to some things doesn't mean that you're working with them. Nobody knew if there was a cooperation agreement in place. What had come out is that there was a joint defense defense agreement between Paul Manafort and Blotus's private lawyers, so they could legally share information between them and stuff like that. It's a little dubious if it's ethical, because they know it's a way for Trump to get information that the Mueller investigation and discovery might not have to turn over just yet to Blotus, but it was a way around it. But either way, Paul Manafort has filed has pled guilty to a couple of the charges, but he will still remain in custody, and that, the sentencing will really depend on the investigation going to the judge and saying, like, he's really cooperated, he's he's fully complied and all this stuff. Go easy on him, judge. Or they can say, yeah, no, we're still going to head and charge him with all these things. We don't accept his guilty plea, and we are going to go back to Virginia and retry him on those 10 things. So he has everything to lose by not cooperating at this point. So, the biggest witch. Anyways, but early in the week, because it's got, because normally if anything comes out on Monday, by Wednesday, man, it is Norm MacDonald should have just hid in a closet. He should have hid under a pile of coats.
And waited for the whole thing to just go away.
Which would have been about 12 hours, maybe 24, maybe a day. But earlier in the week, George Papadopoulos actually was sentenced. Like, he had pled guilty a while ago.
He was on This Week with George Stephanopoulos on Sunday.
Right.
What happened Monday?
He got sentenced, and literally it was a slap on the wrist. He's going to jail for like 30 or 45 days or something like that.
Now, when you say that, I have to stop you again. We can go back to an earlier episode in the podcast history, the episode called Literally. When you say literally a slap on the wrist, I literally slapped my own fucking headphones trying to slap my wrist on mic. I'm an idiot. But yeah, that's a literal slap on the wrist. What really happened?
He got a 30-day sentence, and it could have been up to 5 years.
Okay. I just knocked myself out. I'm just letting people know.
And everybody listening is like, oh, a dream come true.
Please, oh no, it's so close.
Now they're living vicariously through you, not because you get to be with me, but you got to knock you out, which we've all wanted to do. Mama, knock you out. Don't call it a comeback. It's all right. That's my impression of LL Cool J, and
the coolest impression I've ever
apologize.
Heard. No, don't.
But yeah, so now I've lost count. How many witches have now pled guilty? We're up to like 6 or 7, and we're talking big witches. And let's go over some of the witches. We're talking.
Is it a big witch or a little witch?
We are talking his campaign manager. And here's the other thing. Like when he said, oh, Michael Cohen was just a coffee boy. It's like, no, he worked for you for 30 years. And here's all the thing. Oh, well.
George Stephanopoulos. I don't even know the guy.
Right. It's like, okay, Scaramucci was with you for a month and he wasn't. But here's the great thing, or here's the fucking scary thing. Here is the scariest thing that will get buried. We've buried the lead. While Manafort was his campaign chief, the CEO, I forget exactly what the title was. Can you tell me the two biggest things that Manafort did for Blotus during the election?
The biggest thing that Manafort
did. He did two things that people really want to get to the bottom of, that is getting buried in the news cycle. Two big things. So when Blotus says all these crimes are financial crimes from 10 years ago and don't have anything to do with the election, actually everything he pled guilty to is from 2006 to 2017, which carries the 2015 like primary and all that stuff. He did two things.
Tell me.
He handpicked Mike Pence. Manafort was the one who handpicked Mike Pence. Mike Pence, and if you go back, let's get in the Wayback Machine. Us and Mr. Peabody and Sherman, let's go the way back. He was on nobody's short list. He was on nobody's radar. He was a very unpopular governor in Indianapolis who wasn't going to be running for re-election. That's how unpopular he was. Nobody's shortlist. Manafort handpicked him. So, and we know who Manafort was working for at the time. I mean, it's all public knowledge. It's all open. It's all out there that he literally was getting his marching orders. And I do say literally, meaning literally getting his marching orders from the oligarchs. The other thing that everybody says, when it was time to release at the Republican convention the actual agenda, the GOP agenda, moving forward, and it's all shams, and it's like everybody negotiates. They only made one change. They agreed to everything, like the 50 things that they had on there. They were great with 49. The one and only thing that they said, you know what? We really need to change this, and we need strong language about changing it. Loosening Russian sanctions. Those are the two things that Manafort did, is fought to loosen Russian sanctions and handpick Mike Pence. But he was his campaign guy for, it was like 6-7 months. It wasn't he was there for a month or 2 months. So you have his campaign manager in jail. You have his former campaign manager who was just sentenced to jail. You have his, what was Mike Flynn's role? You go down the list. These weren't interns. They weren't coffee boys. They weren't errand boys. They weren't, again, the Scaramucci's who came in and out for a short period of time. So this witch hunt is...
I only hire the best witches.
So, so we got Norm MacDonald. Okay. Oh, you know what? We should have mixed this in there really quickly because we're going to move on.
Yes.
You follow the NRA being upset with Thomas, the tank engine?
I saw the Dana Lesh piece.
Ugh. Like the NRA. Now, why the NRA is waging into this? Why they would say, we're upset because Thomas, and what's a little town where Tom is?
I think it's
Thomasville, whatever
right.
the fuck.
I don't know.
A new train came to town who came from Africa.
Right.
And that upsets the NRA, and so they release like a picture of like Thomas, the tank engine, and all the other engines wearing hoods.
Right. Well, I saw the video of Dana Lesh talking about it, and her rap was, "I thought all the Thomas the Tank Engine trains were gray faced. Like I didn't even know they were white to begin with. What? Because
remember when Stephen Colbert would say he doesn't see color? I know I'm white because people tell me that, but I don't see color."
But then she goes on to say, well, I suppose we're supposed to see that she's from Africa. What? Because they painted some African colors on her side. And, how would we know that the others were white? And then as a Daily Show-esque kind of reach for a joke, they go back to an image of the three, regular Thomas the Tank Engine trains, but this time with white hoods. Like, oh, that's why. They're obviously white because they're wearing white hoods. Oh, they're wearing white hoods on the train show.
Think of all the great Republican comedians out there.
Yeah, we have you, Dennis Miller.
No, I said comedians.
Oh, great. And great.
And great. 1984 when he had a staff of writers and would turn to the camera during the news and say, so the Germans would have us believe. Hysterical. No, that's Norm.
That's Norm MacDonald, goddamn you.
White people look all the same to me.
Hey, you don't see color.
I don't see color.
By the way, just so you know, you're white.
Now, why would the National Rifle Association weigh in on a British-based TV show? A British-based children's show.
Why?
No, that's the whole thing.
I thought you knew.
And is diversity bad? Well, because this week, Tucker Carlson, had a whole rant about I don't know what diversity has ever done for this country.
I don't know.
It's like, all right, so
I kind of agree with him. No, wait.
Don't ever go to a Chinese restaurant, an Italian restaurant. You can eat hot dogs, and that's it the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But
okay. No, I think I know why the NRA's.
Okay.
They're racist.
Oh, thank you. All right, thank you.
And because they're they got to fill time, and there's not a lot of gun news going on. If you don't have a mass shooting every week, you got to fill the air with something. This week it's kind of a bit of a slow gun week.
Wait, thank you.
What?
No, Douchey Loesch had also said the dude shot in his apartment, be alive if he had a gun. If he had a gun on him when the cop shot him for allegedly maybe having pot in his apartment. No, nothing. No.
She thought that her house was being invaded by a black guy.
And so he wasn't complying and shot. So I'm quite sure had he had a gun, he'd be alive today. That makes perfect sense. You cunt.
Yes. I've had an embargo on that word, but last week
you've let it go.
I've let it go a little bit because the president, he earns that word. Dana Lesh also earns that
Yeah,
word.
out of her way.
Right.
So here's the last awful bit of news. We love Black Jeopardy, and it's like when Tom Hanks was on it, and at the very end when they were high-fiving, because I rewatched it, it's like, the last questions was Bake Girls, and he was like, yeah, my wife is a big girl, blah, 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 and they're like, oh, we love you. All right, final Jeopardy question. Lives that matter. And they just...
And then it's like Tom Hanks is like, I've got a couple things to say about that. I'm sure you do. It was good while it lasted.
We've been saying that Charlie Baker, a Republican governor of the state of Massachusetts, highest ranked governor in the country, very moderate, But this week, because he's looking ahead to 2022 or after the impeachment, is starting to reach out to the Trump base, and this week had publicly said that, yeah, he's disagreed with it a lot in the past, but he's on board with the president's agenda. I mean, because at this point, he knows he's going to win in November in Massachusetts by a landslide. He'll probably win 65-35. But now he's starting to look ahead, and he's starting to reach out to the nationwide base, which means, fuck you.
Well, look who won the Republican primary against Senator Warren, for Senator Warren's seat. This Jeff Deal, Trump guy. Like, they know now that that's where the gravy train is. That's who you got to be backing. You can't...
They'll get my parents' vote.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah.
A Trump person running against the woman? Sure.
Yeah.
They're not a fan of Pocahontas.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. I hate. Okay. Enough with the awful. Time to, because if we're going to want to get some beers at the show, we're going to need a little cash.
And now it's time for our defunct sponsor of the week.
Well, thank you. And thanks for rejecting your centuries-old beliefs and buying a television. Well, I love you too. Hi, I'm Conan O'Brien, and guess what? The Amish are going to watch my show. They made this likeness of me out of felt. What's that? You're shaving your beards to resemble me? Super!
Break with tradition. Watch Conan O'Brien.
Okay, sport. So by the time this post, week 2 of the NFL season will be all but over, all except the Monday night game. But I do want to talk about week 1 a little bit. Joe?
Yes?
Cleveland, who 2 years ago was 15-1, and their GM swore they would never have a 1-15. Sorry. Oh my God, the erections around Cleveland right now. They were 1-15 2 years ago, and their general manager swore it would never happen again. Man of his word. They were 0-16 last year. So, for those who are not good at math, most of us, that's a record of 1-31 in the last 2 years. Cleveland opens the season with a win this year.
Well,
21-21.
Yeah. Well, I think if they were to go into the season saying, we will not lose opening day.
They have lost the last 14 opening games. This is the best record in 15 years to start the season. Now, did you see the highlights?
I actually saw the last 3 minutes of the game.
The game or overtime?
The game, because they were contractually
Oh,
not...
right. You watched the pass.
Yeah.
Okay. It was the most Cleveland of Cleveland things ever.
We usually reserve that phraseology for Jets, but this time...
Right. It was a Clevelandiest Cleveland thing where they were marching down the field.
Cleveland rocks! Cleveland sucks!
They are marching down the field, and they have the red line across the field that shows how close they have to get to be in field goal range and stuff like that. And sure enough.
And how much time did they have left in the clock?
They had like 40 seconds. I don't know why they were. They had like 40 seconds and a timeout.
Third down.
They didn't need a 30-yard pass down the field, but yet go for a 30-yard pass down the field, gets intercepted.
Yeah. And then they take it to overtime and tie.
And because both teams missed a field goal.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
In overtime, the Steelers missed a field and the Browns, for the win, 25-yard, 30-yard field goal gets blocked.
As lauded as the Steelers are for their history of championships, they should also be lauded for their history of just fucking up at the last possible second.
So Cleveland scored 21 points, Yet, I believe the Steelers turned the ball over 5 or 6 times.
They are their own worst enemy sometimes, if not all the times.
So literally, I'm calling it a win for Cleveland.
And so is Cleveland.
Unfortunately, our beloved Matt Patricia. I mean, when you talk about a culture of losing, in the last 50 years, in my lifetime, the Detroit Lions have won one playoff game. One playoff game. Now,
which one was that?
It was during the Barry Sanders era,
The 90s.
in the early 90s.
Yeah.
One playoff game. They got robbed by a playoff game with a bad call against Dallas a few years ago, but still in that entire history. And Matt Patricia it's been one game, people. It's been one game, and it's the Lions. But here's the funny thing. It's like Matt Stafford is like one of the highest paid. He's probably in the top 3 paid quarterbacks, in the league. And so they played the Jets. The Jets' new quarterback, his first pass in the NFL was a pick 6, and people are like, "Oh my god!" Like people like us were like, "That's the jettiest Jet thing of Jets ever." Then they go on to win big.
Yeah,
and now,
they rallied right,
huge, and now people, our beloved Patriots, won. I'm trying to think what I called it for, but I was in the wheelhouse. I think I had a 6-point win by the Patriots, and it turned out to be a 7-point win this week. They're playing the Jaguars, and I'm not 100% back. I'm still not wearing Pat's gear and all that stuff.
They haven't lost to the Jaguars. Like I think, what was it? They haven't lost a home game to the Jaguars ever, or something.
But they're playing the Jaguars in Jacksonville. And last year in the AFC title game, Jaguars had a 14-point lead in the second half, and then
they've only played the Jaguars 8 times, and they've lost. They've beaten
like
them every
7-1.
No, yeah, I don't. I think they've beaten them
they
all.
lost once. One year, the Jaguars went to the AFC title.
I heard the news. They said that they had not.
I heard
lost.
the news today.
Oh, boy.
Thank you. Oh, but they're a better team. They made it to the AFC title game. They lost by the Patriots. But this is their Super Bowl. Like, honestly, they're hyping this down there. If the Patriots, and here's the thing, there's not a lot of pressure on the Patriots because everybody knows the Patriots literally, Joe, I'm using literally correctly, they look at September as an extension of the preseason. If they can get out of September 2-2, they're okay. They're really okay if they get out 2-2. What do you got?
You're right. The Jacksonville Jaguars beat the New England Patriots in 1999 and the 1998 AFC wildcard game.
Right. That's a one.
I mean, in the wild card game, not the 1998.
Yeah, their second year in the second year in the NFL, the Jaguars went to the AFC title game.
Right.
And but that's pre-Brady.
But that's also
pre-Brady.
That's also not regular season. So okay.
And pre-Brady.
Yeah.
So
whatever.
So if the Jaguars win, I'm not going to be happy about it. But it's not the season, but it might be for them. It's like when teams get so hyped up when the Patriots come and they make it your Super Bowl in week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. We usually say nobody celebrates September like Buffalo. Maybe not.
Right.
48-3 they lost this week. 48-3 to who did they lose to now? Was it? Yeah, they lost to the Jets.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't the Jets. They lost. I'm trying to think of. They lost to the Ravens week 1.
Okay.
And then the Ravens end up losing, Thursday Night Football. Anyway, so I think, with sports, did you get up at 2:30 in the morning last night to listen to the Bruins in China? They played a preseason game in China.
If they played it through my toilet as I was peeing, yes.
You know what? As I'm reading this list, we are such whiny white snowflakes. The only other thing I have on the rundown for sports, the Serena Williams thing. And I don't know if you followed that, but what the fuck? What a double standard and so unfair. And it's also unfair to the girl, the French girl who won, who the Australian comic who wrote the really racist comic had a white girl with a ponytail in the background. It's like, you can't even get that right.
Yeah, she was part black, part Asian. Was she French? Was she?
I just know, yes, I think Japanese.
Japanese, like black Japanese, or I don't know.
You're from Japan,
right. But she's a brown, let's say.
And then the cartoonist. Well, first of all, the incident itself was like, and people have shown all the times that like male tennis players, take the black thing out of it. Just all the male tennis players who have ever yelled at this ref, who he's never deducted a point out of. And then it became like a scene out of Breakfast Club where, the guy giving out detention, I don't care, another week, another week. Like he kept penalizing her. She never was disrespectful, never, said, you're stealing from me, you are a thief, but didn't swear at him, wasn't vulgar,
Yeah, she was flipping out because she thought she was being robbed, and she was losing, by the way. She was losing.
But she was accused of cheating.
Right, and which is the most egregious thing you can ever do to an athlete. Tom Brady. But
right, but then again, so that's the last thing I wanted to touch on. So a very racist comic came out in Australia, which I only point out because Australia is one of the big stops in tennis, and
yeah,
but in the background, so they have the angry black woman comic. They make her ginormous,
right?
But in the background, the umpire is talking to the opponent, who's a
white blonde.
Well,
not the opponent. Yeah.
Were you watching the same game?
And the bubble, the speech bubble from the referee is saying, well, "Can't you just let her win?"
So now let's move on to something less awful.
What?
Instead of going with the random video game review of the week, two things. You want to bring up something from the expo? I think.
No. I think it's.
Oh, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Let's have it.
Spider-Man. Great game for the PlayStation 4. Yeah, so we went to RetroWorld Expo. We came home with some, older games, and then we go, you know what? Let's grab some dinner, and then there's a GameStop over here. Let's go inside because I haven't bought Spider-Man yet. So I bought Spider-Man for the same price that I could have bought a PlayStation 3 for at the RetroWorld Expo, $60.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I'm having trouble with my PS3, and when I was in GameStop yesterday,
$150.
it was $110 for one of the fat ones.
Oh, right. And the fat ones, those are great if you want to play older, like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 games, but they break down. They overheat.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, they fail miserably too. The slim model is what you want to go for.
Hello.
The one that you have, basically. The same model that you have is kind of the one you want to go for.
I got a fat one a couple of years ago.
I know, whatever.
Anyway, so tell me about Spider-Man.
So Spider-Man is great. If you've ever played Arkham games, Jacques, I don't know, you like the Batman.
Currently playing it now?
Yes. It's that meets the Spider-Man 2 game from the PlayStation 2 era that I've played on July 4th and beat. It's great. It's the mixture of the two games. It's by Insomniac Games. They've done a bunch of great games.
Have you walked around the city taking selfies with people?
No, but I my older son Connor has been playing it. He actually beat it. And he said he's also watched a couple of YouTube videos, and I guess there's one guy who took a selfie of himself in front of Uncle Ben's grave.
Oh, awful. Awful.
But it's great. It's an open world Manhattan. It's like a shrunken down version of Manhattan, just like in PlayStation 2, only you can't go to I don't think you can go to the Staten Island or Liberty Island or anything like that. But you're fighting like Kingpin and Mr. Negative, and I thought I was Mr. Negative, but all these I haven't gotten very far in the game. I'm only like 3% into the game. Connor beat the game, but then there's like all these little side quests you can go on there, like these little trophy hunts you can go for. Like, it's not like a high school version of Spider-Man. He's like a college graduate. He's quit the Daily Bugle. He's moved on to work for Dr. Octavius at his lab.
Who's not Doc Ock
yet.
Okay.
Well, in the game, he becomes Doc Ock.
Wait, you're burying the lead again. Is Aunt May old Aunt May, or is
No, it's not smoking hot, fapping to her Aunt May. No, it's not Miss Marissa Tomei. She's like a middle-aged Aunt May.
Excuse me, Academy Award winning.
Yes,
Marissa
rightfully
Tomei.
so. She was great in that movie. No, she's like a middle-aged, 50s woman. She's in the game, and it's not an origin story. He's in the thick of it. Like Mary Jane plays into the story, but it's fantastic. The combat is very much like Arkham City. the exploration, and there's like almost like a detective mode. It's Spidey sense. You use your Spidey sense to see if there's enemies in the area, and to like locate like these backpack missions are like it's a little collectathon where you earn XP to
Like the Riddler trophy, same thing.
But you can use the XP that from like finding these backpacks that he left behind around the city in his high school days. Like they all have little trinkets, like little memorabilia from his past inside the backpack, and then you find them and you collect them and read about them and everything, and it's fun. But you earn XP so that you can learn new moves. You can learn new like web slinging techniques. You can upgrade your suit. You can wear different suits. You can switch in and out of suits. Like you can be like the classic Spider-Man, or like there's like a more upgradable, like a high-end.
The one that Tony Stark gave him, like the
probably
Infinity War one.
Yeah, it's called. I mean, technically the game's called Marvel Superman. I mean, God forbid, Marvel Spider-Man. And it's a fantastic game. Like you really should get this, or I'll let you borrow it as soon as I'm done playing it. It's a really, really fun time
In the old town.
tonight.
Question.
Yes.
On Twitter, I've seen a lot of people complaining about like championing government surveillance. Have you followed that at all?
No.
I guess there's like a lot of like you're being watched, like signs around the city.
Oh.
Okay, so we'll talk about that more next week.
Yeah,
But I'll call attention to it when we're done recording and see what people are bitching about. But they're basically like, it's like pro-government surveillance, like the game is
I don't know about
perpetuating.
that. That sounds like a little weird. I don't know. There is one thing I will bring up briefly, is that there was a failed marriage proposal that's in the game that will be patched out, but it's still there, at least on my version.
Oh.
So apparently there was like a huge Spider-Man fan that during the development of the game reached out like on YouTube, and it went viral. He wanted to put a marriage proposal to his girlfriend in the game because they were all both Spider-Man fans or whatever, and they agreed. They were like, "Hey, that sounds like a fun idea. Let's do it." And they did it in the form of a movie theater marquee that said, "Maddie, will you marry me?" And it's actually right across the street from Hook and Ladder 8, which is the Ghostbusters firehouse, which is in the game. It doesn't have the Ghostbusters symbol in there, but you know what it is. Anyways, so it's there. What happened, though, is 2 weeks before the game was released, they broke up. And she's dating his brother. Yes. The girl that broke up with him is now dating his brother. Jerry Springer's.
Yeah, I was going to say, not a lot of developers living in trailer parks, but hey.
Right. So, but just so you know, like, this isn't like a developer that worked in the game. This is a guy who reached out to the developer. Like, this is a fan. Like that.
Oh.
It's like just a regular person who reached out.
Call from his mom's basement from the trailer. Do you have basements and trailers? Saying, "Oh, but you're liking it. It's worth the $80, $60."
No, it's $60.
Okay.
But it's so much fun. Like dude. I mean, if you've never played, like, you obviously never played Spider-Man 2 because
I didn't have a PS2.
Yeah, no, but it's so much fun. It's you're in this little mini version of New York City, and you get to like interact with people. Like people are asking, like, "Hey, Spider-Man, come here," And
Right. I've seen all the clips where he's walking down the street just saying, and I saw one guy on Twitter. It's like, my goal is to say hello to every person in Manhattan. like that. That's his one question in the game, is to see how many people he can get high fives or fist bumps from.
It's so cool. I mean, yeah, it's a really, really fun game, and it's so fluid. Like, it's intuitive. You can run up the walls like right away. You're not like starting off as a shit Spider-Man who's just learning the ropes. Like, you're in it. Like, it's just like hold R2 to swing, and then like hold R2 to run up the wall. And
What do you do with C3PO?
Oh, R2.
You with C3PO. 2, 3, 4. Hey, do you know that C3PO? Oh, well done. All right, so next week, do you want to do a review, or do you want to talk about one of the other games that you got at the Retro?
I got Banjo-Kazooie for the N64, and I also got a gun game for the Sega Genesis called Lethal Enforcers. I had the gun, the light gun, but I didn't have the game, and now I got them both. And now,
And what will you be playing them?
I have already played it.
Oh, nice.
That's very nice.
Nice. And you went back to work this week.
I
You
did.
got a lot of
Oh,
done.
did I?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I just started playing Spider-Man like literally last night. Literally last night.
And I'm taking you away from it tonight. Well, next couple hours.
Yeah.
Go. Okay. So, lastly, were you watching anything? No, you're not.
No.
You're playing video
I'm
games.
playing video games and not watching Netflix. I'm catching up on my match games and my $100,000 pyramids that I record. Yes, I'm a loser. I like the game show stuff that comes back on television. Okay.
Hey, I'm not judging you. I'm really judging you.
You judge me.
So I watched.
My wife.
Have you heard of the show on Hulu called Letterkenny?
No.
It's one word. It's the name of a town.
No.
Management's friend, said, "Hey, do you have Hulu?" She said, "No." So her friend came over, put it on, got the app on our smart TV, put it on, and gave her his password and said, "I'm doing this so you watch this Canadian show called Letterkenny." Small cast, very, very Canadian, very, very funny. It tries a little too hard, but it's about a brother and a sister who run a small farm. The sister, what's the right way of saying like really slutty without trying to demean a woman? But
she's slutty.
She's dating two hockey players who are stereotypical dumb jock hockey players, and her older brother, like, it was the town tough guy who won't fight anymore, and it's like people are trying to get him to beat people up again. He's very slow talking but really smart. It's fun dialogue. It's almost like it's the male driven Canadian Gossip Girl.
Oh boy.
Well,
Soul.
you ever watch Gossip Girl? You know that.
No.
Okay.
I know, but I know they had like a lot of back and forth banter.
Like really, really quick and stuff like that. The two hockey guys are trying to get him to start a fight. They get out of the Jeep. They're both like, the douchebag starter kit with like the side baseball cap and like cheap, like green, like lime green, like sunglasses. Like they just look like douches. Right. And they're like, "Come on, we're going to go." And he rips off his shirt, but he keeps the glasses on it. And then it becomes a whole thing. It's like, well, that's a bold fashion statement for a fight. So you're going to leave the glasses on, but you took your shirt off. If I punch you in the face, the glass will go in your eye. But if I punch you in the chest, the shirt won't do any extra damage. What?
Right, yeah.
It was fun. I would, especially to my Canadian friends or my friends who are
American friends. Fuck off.
Who are fluent in Canadian, who might understand it, who don't need it subtitled. While we're talking about Canadian, I guess my favorite tweet this week is from the Tweets from God. I guess Justin Bieber is trying to become an American citizen, and he wrote, "Never a better time to be Canadian." So yeah, that's it for us. You're not
going to give your stellar parenting tip?
I will give a stellar parenting tip. Never miss an opportunity to
shame them.
But I have a very small window where I'm more tech savvy than my children. And my little guy, who was explicitly told, "No, you cannot take the Switch to school for show and tell. You can take the case covers without the games to show a game or two that you like, but the Switch will not leave the house." Well, the little fucker took the Switch to school, showed it off. It came home unscathed. But while he was at school, didn't realize that I had the app on the phone that shows exactly, like, because you can monitor how long it's been played. So when he got off the bus, I just stood there holding my phone with the app. And so while you have the brief window, while you're more tech savvy than the 8-year-old, and I'm a little surprised I'm more tech savvy than an 8-year-old in 2018.
Which, bad parenting, by the way.
Bad parenting. Yeah, you use that to make sure, to quote Roz from the Monster Inc. movie, "I'm always watching you. Always." That, and by the time we are sitting here next week, you will have come to see the great Dan Cray, and Dan Cray and the Beyond It Experience playing our first show, our first real show in probably like 5 or 6 years. And as of this week, old bass player Sean Keneally came out of the works, rehearsed with us yesterday, So one rehearsal in 21 years.
And go.
Yeah. So I am. I'm actually really looking forward to it.
As am I, and I can't wait to hear about it.
You will be there. You will leave the house.
Where is it?
It is at Ralph's
Oh.
in Worcester
Oh.
at 8:00 next Friday. So we'll either do the podcast Thursday or Saturday. No, let's do it Saturday so you can relish in my epic failure. It's funny because it's the first time a lot of people will have seen Dan and I play sober because we've sobered up in the last like half decade. And like I was telling him today, it's like, yeah, a bunch of people are going to come to see if we've gotten bald and fat. Dan's lost a little hair. I've gained a little weight. So mission accomplished.
What are you calling the tour?
The
The Bald and Fat
the
Tour?
bald and fat tour, fat and bald.
Yeah.
Do I get first billing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Fat and bald. So looking forward to that. You will be there. If you can go all the way to Connecticut to buy a Sega Genesis game, you can make it out to there.
I suppose I could.
Former Beyond It member yourself.
I know.
You did many a show.
At the TT's, God rest in peace, right? TT's is gone.
TT's is gone, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm that old guy who's like, yeah, the rat's gone, Bun Ratty's gone.
I think the
TT's
Middle East
gone.
is like the only one
The
left.
only one that we used to play at that is left. Oh, actually, and Ralph's. Like, what?
Well, yeah.
I have. But the funny thing
Boston
is,
area.
we haven't seen Sean the baseball. I haven't seen him in 20 years, and he was like, yeah, the show's like a week to the date of like the 20-year anniversary of the first show I played with you guys at Ralph's. I'm like, we played Ralph's, and he was like laughing, and it's like, as you know, it's gone. That era is gone.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, you would not pass a Beyond It quiz.
So I really, how sad is that? It is true. So we're going to go out tonight on our, I was going to say our hit, but we had a song called Recess that was FNX's local song of the year for 91 and 92.
Now, FNX, that was a radio channel
Yeah.
or something?
It was a big radio station.
Wasn't it owned by some sort of a publication?
WFNX. It was a big Boston alt rock station, but
But the Phoenix ran it.
yeah, the Boston Phoenix,
Yeah.
and who
They were so great.
We had an article in Phoenix probably every 3 or 4 weeks. There was a music guy who liked us, and then there was an editor at large who, would just write articles about it. It was great. It was fun.
God, I miss picking up the Phoenix at the
It was
corner.
great.
Like you just open the fucking kiosk and grab a Phoenix, and like that was it.
It's funny because the last time we played, a guy showed up and he's like, I was halfway home on the train, and I was looking through the Phoenix, and I saw that you guys were playing. I'm like, oh, great, okay.
And by the way, for those of you who don't know what the Boston Phoenix is, do a little Google
It's
search.
like for our LA friends,
Weekly.
it's the LA Weekly.
Yeah.
Same. Oh, the Village Voice in
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah,
it's
right.
it's also gone now.
Yeah.
But on a happy note, the song, and this made it with this video for this. It's our old friend Kim's favorite song. It's management's favorite song by us. So we're gonna go out on the song "Other Break."
Starring whom in the video?
Actually, yes. Let's see. Sean Keneally's in the video.
Of course. A little person named Jacques.
Dan Cray's in the video.
Uh-huh.
My sister's old friend Diane Chalafour, who I didn't know went to the same school at the same time in the same program. She's in it. Our old friend Kim Barber, and more importantly, Grayson and Misty, my 2 dogs. But you are referring to, before I say it, we've talked about this gentleman before. The video, high concept. I did a version. It was my nod to The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Very short story about a guy who has a crappy life, who flashes and has these, visions of grandeur. And so our hero in this case, or heroine now, his white trash version of a perfect day was him going candlepin bowling, him going to bingo, and him flying in a single engine plane. But guys, we are talking about troop number, what is it, 214? I'm trying to think of what troop number.
614.
No, that's our song.
Yes.
Anyways, but I'm talking about the great Marcel. I don't know if his name's still Marcel. I don't know if he changed it.
Marsha.
It might be, but our friend Marcel Lefay,
The Biz.
the Biz, famous for his appearances on Formal Edition.
Of course.
and on Howard Stern.
Yes, that one, the CBS 98 like Saturday night show.
This guy freaked out Howard Stern. Howard Stern's people wanted him to be in, what do you call it? Like
The Whack Pack.
The Whack Pack, but was too freaked out.
Right.
Like this guy was too nuts.
But they did like a makeover show with him for the television show, the short-lived CBS version of the radio show.
And we took him on tour with us, and we made videos with him. But yes, other break stars, Marcel Lefebvre. Joe, last thoughts?
I have no final thoughts. So I think that's it. Oh, Jacques, don't forget.
That squint taste. Let's talk a stale redemption. If they see